Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing-related tweets, or you can subscribe to the channel and click that notifications button and get a new notification whenever a new video is uploaded. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk Andy Ruiz. Let's talk Tyson Fury. A lot of footage has emerged this last week or so of both fighters looking very, very trim. And it sparked some debates online. You know, some people feel that Tyson Fury looks drained. He looks ill. Many people are saying he looks ill. Other people are feeling that Andy Ruiz looks sensational. So let's talk about this a little bit, because a lot of people associate aesthetics with ability or potential ability. That's not always the case, though. Like I've said in the past, some of the most dangerous animals in the world are animals with a lot of fat or a lot of blubber. You know, a polar bear, for instance, or a bear, a hippo. There's some strong structures there and a lot of muscle under those layers and layers of fat. But it doesn't mean that, you know, just because you look the part, that you're necessarily going to be the part, even when you're talking about the same athlete. So let's talk a little bit about Eddie Chambers, because Eddie Chambers was a guy who was at heavyweight. A lot of people said, look, fast Eddie Chambers, really fast hands. He could potentially be the real deal if only he could drop down to cruiserweight. And he went down to cruiserweight, and suddenly that hand speed wasn't as pronounced. And he seemed a little bit drained. Although a lot of people felt, listen, this is more his natural weight. He wasn't performing as though it was his natural weight. And he didn't perform in that particular fight at cruiserweight, and he lost the fight. Well, with Andy Ruiz, this also happened obviously with Roy Jones, by the way. But with Roy Jones, many people understood that he was a middleweight stroke, super middleweight, went all the way up to heavyweight, put on a lot of muscle. Then when he had to lose that muscle, then you're literally draining yourself of muscle. And by weakening yourself, essentially, you can leave yourself in a situation where athletically you're no longer what you once were, right? Whereas with Andy Ruiz, people look at him and they say, look, but Andy Ruiz is just fat. He's only losing fat. He's getting healthier. Surely that's going to help him more. This isn't a case of a Roy Jones. It's more like the Eddie Chambers example, but he's staying at heavyweight. He should have enough about him to be able to do all the things he could do before, and maybe even more. And he's worked very closely with Canelo and Eddie Reynoso, two of the most talented people in the sport in their own right. Obviously, Reynoso the trainer, Canelo the fighter. And you've seen Canelo showing him and him working on the bag on his own, changing height dynamics, crouching, coming from a crouch and shooting uppercuts. Canelo was showing him how to do that. That footage has gone viral. But also, you know, just on his own, just looking to come under ropes and throw uppercuts from there and hooks from there and come under bags, swinging bags that will come in, changing that dynamic, slipping, sliding. He looks really, really good, really, really agile. And with those big muscular legs, if he's able to change that dynamic and by coming down or slipping, he's able to load up while he's doing it. Because as he dips, isn't he going to shoot up from those legs? He's producing that power from the floor. So you look at it and you're thinking to yourself, okay, this totally makes sense. He could look brilliant. He could move even more quickly. You look at that second Anthony Joshua fight, he just couldn't close the range. He was far too slow. Whereas you think, imagine if he could, and he could start producing these shots that are varied they're varied in all manner. The trajectory that they come at you with and the type of shots that they are, he could become a devastating fighter who closes the range. He could look sensational. However, everything is offset. And when you give something, or rather when you take something, you end up giving something in return. How do we know it's not going to affect his durability? How do we know it's not going to affect his physical strength? When you go and watch these World's Strongest Man competitions, none of them are slender and toned with six packs and abs. They're big, bulky men. They're what you would call fat wedge. Well, in my area, that's what people would call it. You're not just wedge. You're not fat. You're fat wedge. You're a big muscular man who's got a beer belly, who's got a bubble chin probably. You're a big dude with blubber. You're a polar bear. Well, why don't they lose weight and get trim and be strong and have their six pack and look, you know, like some sort of supermodel that can leave the World's Strongest Man competition and go model a new Armani suit? Because there's a reason that extra weight, that extra blubber provides them with more strength. It helps them. And so Ruiz might find that he doesn't feel as physically strong in the clinch. There's not enough weight behind him anymore to feel as strong. That could affect his punching power as well. Now, like I said, he might produce that power. He might start delivering it differently from the legs. His legs are still muscular. And so it will alter the way he throws punches, and he'll be able to produce even bigger punches perhaps, or maintain that power. But in the clinch, he's such a wide man, it would be difficult to get your arms around him. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that, to lock him up properly. It must be quite difficult, and he's physically strong. So you'll often see him just push a guy away, two hands, just push him away when he tries to get too close. Now, one of the criticisms that I always felt was a little bit unfair of Andy Ruiz, if you oversimplify it, is this idea that he has a lack of head movement. Early in fights, he's actually got head movement, and he'll come in, and as he's walking you down, his head's actually coming off the line constantly. As the fight wears on, I don't know if it's because he's getting tired, that head movement starts to dissipate. And one of the reasons could be because he's getting tired. Well, now you might see a more lateral moving Andy Ruiz, and he could look brilliant, he could look sensational. But I do wonder how it will affect his strength, how it will affect his punch resistance. Is it going to affect him in any way? Let me know what you think. With regards to Tyson Fury, a lot of people are talking about he looks ill, he looks trim, he looks this, he looks that. One of the key problems I believe Tyson Fury is going to have against Anthony Joshua is getting the tactics spot on when it comes to weight. And I've spoken about this in the past on a boxing video here. If he comes in heavy, he's going to look to get in on Anthony Joshua, get in close, look to power punch, look to hurt AJ, use your size, lean on him, perhaps expose some of those stamina issues that AJ's got, take him into the latter rounds by mauling him and then break him down in that manner. But if that's not working for you, let's say AJ's a lot more physically strong than you thought. He's sharper than you as you're trying to walk him down, and he's using those really nice crisp counter punches he's pulling. All of a sudden you're in trouble. You think, you know what, I need to get on the back foot. Can you maintain that same level of movement when you're big? By the same token, if he comes in trim and starts to move around the ring and box and move and wants to bedazzle AJ, what happens if Anthony Joshua, who statistically has the most accurate jab in the heavyweight division, by the way, is out jabbing Tyson Fury? Now, that might be a bit of a, I don't know, let's just say a misleading statistic, because one thing about Tyson Fury is that he's not trying to be accurate with his jab. He'll often throw throwaway jabs. He'll throw double jabs. He'll often jab. He'll throw this thing where he turns his backhand towards you, and it's almost like a slap. He'll throw it as a throwaway jab just to touch your hand. And as he pretends to throw it, your hand will come in, for instance. He'll touch you, and then immediately from there, he'll throw a hook. And you think, uh-oh, he's touched me. He's touched me. It's a throwaway jab. He's about to throw a hook, and then the hook is a throwaway hook. It's a double bluff, a double feint. So you throw a throwaway jab, throwaway hooked, just to line you up, to step to your left, to line you up with a right hand down the pipe. He does stuff like that. Well, when he does things like that, that will look like he missed a jab and a hook. So statistically, it won't reflect what he's actually doing in there, the high level intellectual stuff he's doing. But nonetheless, even if we ignore Tyson Fury for a minute, Anthony Joshua is the most accurate jabber in the heavyweight division, statistically speaking, according to CompuBox this is, which we know is not perfect, but it does give you a rough guide. Now, if Tyson Fury realizes, oh, I'm actually not winning this jab like I thought I would be, this boxing fight from distance, I need to get up close. I need to become the Gypsy King, bypass range, bypass mid-range, and let me get right inside on this guy and let's go to war. Well, now, have you come in too light? Can you adapt and fight that heavier front foot heavy approach? So he's got a tactical element, a dilemma that he has to deal with. But the point is, with Tyson Fury, if he has come in light, and he's going to come in light, and he does look very, very trim, I have to say, is there a possibility, number one, that he's draining himself? You can't keep ballooning up and down in weight. Look how it affected Ricky Hatton, and we know that Tyson Fury has a tendency to do that. A lot of people are saying he looks old, he looks ill, he looks drained. He does. He looks those things. Aesthetics might not mean everything. That could just be because he's put on a lot of weight in the past. He's developed more saggy skin. As he's lost the weight, he looks drawn. He looks gaunt. Whereas really, he might be in the best shape of his life beneath that skin. So we can't really judge. We can't really know. But is it possible that the ballooning up and down in weight will drain him? Could you imagine Tyson Fury coming out and looking flat, unable to move, or looking particularly weak, unable to affect AJ in any way? What happens if he comes in trim and they do still want to fight that Kronk style? Can he marry that speed and increased sort of athleticism that would get from being slimmer with a more aggressive approach? Let me know what you think. The point is that I'm trying to make here is that there isn't a case of one size fits all. Andy Ruiz may very well find, you know what, I actually feel better when I'm bigger. You know, he's fighting Chris Arreola next. Maybe that's why they've taken this fight. A lot of people, as a pay-per-view, it's shocking, right? But maybe the reason they weren't taking this fight, which is very winnable and pretty straightforward for a man of Andy Ruiz's abilities and talents, you know, a prime Chris Arreola wouldn't have much of a chance against Andy Ruiz Jr., in my humble opinion. But maybe the reason they're taking this is to say, listen, let's have a look at how he deals with this. And if not, then we will go back to making him fat, turn him back into a polar bear, a deadly polar bear. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they want to look at him. Tyson Fury doesn't have that luxury if he does take Anthony Joshua next. Now, who knows where that fight's going to happen next? It might not by the looks of it. But let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.